Can you tell us who you are and when and where you were born?
My name is Meredith Robb, and I was born in London, Ontario in 1940, and lived in this area all my life. So,
Okay. And you were a member of Middlesex County then?
Middlesex County Junior Farmers, and specifically Illerton Junior Farmers. And back then, which is a little bit different than now, I think we had 10 clubs in Middlesex County. And so it was quite a thriving organization in the day.
How many members in Middlesex?
I'm guessing a little over 500.
500. Do you remember all the names of those 10 clubs?
Yes. Well, I don't know if I can remember them all. I guess the three big ones would be Illerton, Thorndale, Glencoe. Then Arba had a club, Mount Bridges, Kerwood, Lucan, I think, and I can't think of the others. They're smaller clubs, smaller villages, but they all was part of the county. Yeah.
How did you first get involved with Junior Farmers?
Well, I was quite involved in 4-H right from the age of 12, and then I had a couple of brothers, older brothers in Junior Farmers, and I guess they got up around 15 years old, and they started taking me to the meetings, and just sort of evolved in that, and then just kept on going. So.
What sort of projects did Illerton Junior Farmers engage in that you were a part of?
Oh, well, I suppose one of our bigger projects would be the Illerton Fair. We always had a booth, food booth at Illerton Fair, and I can't think of anything. Also, major projects, always doing various community betterment projects. I just can't think of any of them right offhand now.
So were there a lot of activities as well, social, sports, competitions?
Oh yes, that's of course what I always figure is one of the big things of Junior Farmers is the social aspect of it. Yeah, with all these 9 or 10, 11 clubs that we had, somebody was always putting on a dance, and of course everybody would participate in it and go to the dance. And I know, especially Glencoe, Illerton, and Thorndale, they always had big dances, good dances, and we all participated in them, and got to know a lot of people that way. So that was, yeah, certainly one of the big aspects of it. And then of course we have your county field day, that every club had a ball team to put in, and runners, and just all the general sports of a field day. And then of course they progressed on to zone competition, and then progressed on to a provincial competition. So oh yeah, there's a lot of activities that way.
Okay. Where was the field day held in Middlesex?
Usually at Medway High School, just outside of Arba.
Okay. That was central?
Pretty well, actually, yes. It's as central as you probably get with facilities. Yep.
Okay. How long were you involved in Junior Farmers before you became provincially active?
Well, I guess that sort of depends what you mean provincially active. I participated with the county in provincial events. So I wasn't provincially active as the organization, but I was participating in different events, sporting events, and competitions, especially at what is now referred to as Sing Swing, which used to be the Toronto Conference. I think it was fairly involved in county activities there. Middlesex did took a big part in that with choirs, public speakers, and the whole bit. And so I suppose before I got going to county events, that'd be 5-6 years, I guess. Yeah, 19, 20.
And what led you to make the step up to become provincially active at the board level and such?
I guess it's just a progression. There's no big thing that, hey, I got to get involved in the province. You sort of get involved with the local club, go through the chairs of it, and then you're director of the county, and then you're president of it, and then they might likely would elect you as provincial director for representing their county, and so it's just sort of a progression on up that way, just a natural progression.
What years were you a provincial director for Middlesex?
I think it's about 1963, 64, 65, in that era there.
Okay, so that was 4 years?
Yes.
Okay. And what was it like being on the board of directors? What was some of the responsibilities and discussions at the board level?
This is on provincial?
Yes.
Oh, I guess basically getting things organized for different events for the provinces. Maybe sponsorship of different things, getting nominations for overseas trips, and very just a general business. It really wasn't a social time with it. It was more business of the day, and I'm not sure there's anything specific that I can think of now, but it's just a. Like we didn't meet that overly often. I'm guessing now probably 4 to 5 times a year, probably, because back then, well, of course, travel is a little bit easier now, but back in those days, I mean, a trip to Guelph was a major event. Now you think about nothing about going there for a dance.
How did you get to Guelph?
Oh, I drove.
You drove. Okay.
Oh yeah, drove their own car. Oh yeah. No, I think everybody pretty well drove their own car at that time, unless I think maybe one of the provincial directors from Thunder Bay. I think they flew down. I think obviously, but that'd be a fair bit of expense too at that point.
And from there, you got after becoming on the board, you got a little more interested, and you decided to go overseas.
Yes, I put in an application to go overseas, and fortunately I won out on that one, and so had the luxury, I guess you call it a luxury, good fortune anyway, to go overseas, and that was certainly a real experience in itself, and certainly one of the major aspects of why they should get involved in junior farmers at that time, and still today. They should get involved for that aspect, and now the competition certainly isn't as great to go on some of these overseas trips as it was back then. I mean, back then, pretty well every county had a nomination to it, literally. And I was just looking here a while ago, the schedule for the interviews, and it went 15 minutes for each person, and I think it went most of the day. And so, I mean, it just wasn't a shoe-in by any stretch of the imagination. Whereas, if I can jump ahead a little bit, I was asked 2 or 3 years ago to adjudicate, I guess you might say, nominations for various trips, both overseas and interprovincial. And there wasn't enough candidates to fill all the trips that's awarded. So, and that's in the province. So, people, now the membership is way down, of course, too now. So that sort of, I guess, eliminates things down a bit. But I was a bit surprised that there wasn't enough candidates for all of the trips awarded.
How many went from Junior Farmers Association Ontario to the United Kingdom?
At that time, there was 4 of us plus a leader who was involved with the Ministry of Agriculture, or the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, or whatever was the name of it then. And there was usually one of the ag reps, and they went over there to make sure, well, not as chaperones per se, because we were adults basically at the time, but I think there was maybe also a little bit of a award or a appreciation to the ag reps for their service and whatnot. And of course it was sponsored by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, so they just added the one more man or couple, usually it was a man, his wife, went over, and it's a good opportunity for them to see agriculture over there as an ag rep. So it really wasn't a holiday for them any more than for the rest of us. I mean, it was a learning experience. But,
who did you go with?
The other 3 of us that went was Bev McLean now from up Thunder Bay way, or St. Joseph's Island, I think it is. Mary Millen, Mary, I can't think of her maiden name now, but from Clarksburg, which is near Owen Sound, and then Albert Taylor from Galt, and who was later on a provincial president. But there's the four of us.
And did you know one another before you got put together in the trip?
Did I know them?
Yes.
I knew Albert because he was a provincial director, and I don't know whether Mary was a provincial director at the time or not, and whether I knew her. But of course, you get on a trip like that, you get to know them very quickly.
So you became really good friends afterwards.
Yeah, and we still correspond with Mary, Bev a bit. She's quite a piece away, of course. And then Doris Taylor, Albert's wife. Unfortunately, Albert has passed away in the meantime. But yeah, we kept in touch pretty close, and we've kept in touch with overseas people too.
How long was the trip?
It was, I think it was 10 weeks.
10 weeks.
What it was, and it was to Scotland, and then down to England, and then over to Northern Ireland, and we usually stayed in two different hosts in each county or each area, or each country, I guess you'd call it over there, and etc. So it was a good time. Usually 1 week in one spot and 1 week in another.
And what kind of activities did they have you doing? What kind of things did you see on the trip?
Oh, it was the host families took it pretty seriously, and if they were busy on the farm, you might help them a bit with the farm, etc. But no, they would take you around and show you the tourist sites of the area and what all there was to see. And then, of course, there was times that, like at the Royal Island show and the Royal show, that was we were sort of on our own, or the four of us were together there attending that. So that wasn't hosted by any one person, but of course we knew the host people that we'd stayed with before, so we met up with them.
What was it like coming back to Ontario after the trip?
The way we went over, we flew over, and then we brought the boat, the Empress of Canada, brought it home, so that was a week-long trip in itself. And it was quite an interesting experience. I think we were on the ocean 4 days, and then basically a couple of days coming up to St. Lawrence. But I guess the most interesting experience was not on the boat, but getting off of the boat after, because you sort of, as the boat would be rocking, your feet would sort of go with it, and then you got off on the cement, and all, bang, the cement didn't move. And so it was, and also, of course, they had dances and everything else on the boat, so that was a bit of an experience too, dancing to the rhythm of the waves, I guess you might say.
Other than those three that you went on the trip with, was there anyone else in Junior Farmers that you met that became a significant part of your life?
Yes and no. The no to the part of the aspect that you're probably thinking of, which a lot of people do, they're getting a husband or a wife out of it. No, I did not. But yeah, there's a lot of people that played a significant part of my life, just one way and another. And I don't think you can help by being involved of not having a lot of significant others involved in your life. So that's where the yes comes in there.
So you made a lot of friends through Junior Farmers.
Oh yeah, sure. And I probably wasn't that outgoing. I didn't meet or gain that many. But oh yeah, I mean you gain them all from all across. Well, starting off all across Middlesex, and then all across Ontario, and then basically all across the world. Because as I say, all across the world, because while we were over in the Great Britain, they had other junior farmers from other countries there as delegates as well. So of course you meet them too. Some from Sweden, I think it was, Finland, Denmark, mostly European. I don't know if there's any. Yeah, I think there would be some from Australia and New Zealand as well. So yeah, it's So you get to know them as well, maybe not intimately or anything like that, but I was able to send Christmas cards back and forth for a few years. So.
No, that's good. Going back to your time on provincial board, who was the secretary treasurer at the time?
I did do. I'm trying to think. I think it was Art Bennett
Art Bennett?
at the time, and then Carm Hamilton, I think, was after him. Carm was actually assistant ag rep here in Middlesex. That's where I first got to know him, and that's that's where he got his first chivalry after he got married too. So we gave him a good welcome to Middlesex there, and I'm sure Carm would remember that.
So starting with Carm, what sort of things did he do in Middlesex as an assistant ag rep? What sort of things involving junior farmers did he do?
Oh well, of course, other than junior farmers, he was quite involved in 4-H, naturally. But in junior farmers, he would attend the meetings and assist us if we needed any assistance or guidance of how to approach the Ministry of Agriculture if we required anything, and things like that. Just a general coach, I guess you might say, or assistant. But he didn't really take over or do anything like that. He'd be at the meetings and all that. But yeah, he was just there almost as a member. So.
And then in his role as secretary treasurer of JFAO, what kind of things did he do? How did he contribute?
Oh well, of course, any of the provincial projects, he would not necessarily head it up, but if we had to make contacts with sponsors or various things, would be involved that way, of course. And I guess just the general and the finances, the whole bit. He was secretary treasurer, and just I don't know if he had anything very basic other than what a general secretary treasurer would do, but just sort of keep things on target, and if some of the directors or whatnot didn't get their homework done, he'd be proud of them to get it finished before the next event comes along.
So what kind of leader, what kind of person was Carm Hamilton?
Oh, fantastic person as far as that goes. Oh yeah, no, Carm and I got along great, and he had, I think this was one of his first counties that he was assistant ag rep in, and so he got to have many friends in Middlesex County, and oh yeah, and he was certainly well, as we say, we chivalried him, and he was certainly a fun-loving guy, and he was out for a lot of fun himself as well. So.
Now, taking a step back before Carm, you mentioned Art Bennett. What kind of person was Art Bennett?
Well, of course, he was somewhat older than Carm when he was in the position, but a very serious type chap, and certainly kept things online. I suppose as far as his job, not much different than Carm or any other secretary treasurer. But no, Art was very dedicated to the jobs, as I imagine all of them were, etc. They're all dedicated to junior farmers and 4-H too, as far as that goes.
What were some of the provincial projects and provincial issues that came up provincially with junior farmers during your time on the board?
Now you're really testing the memory. I can't, as I really recall anything major at the time. That one draws a blank on me. Sorry about that.
What was one of your craziest experiences as a junior farmer?
I guess some of those go back more to the county aspect of it. Probably one of the things that we did, the Middlesex Junior Farmers did, we always had a food booth at the Western Fair. And see, at that time it was about a week long or 10 days long, well it's 10 days long now. But it was just a tent that we put up. And so each club was responsible for a day to come in and do the serving and then the whole bit, but there's always 2 or 3 leaders of it, you might say, and I was our chairman, I guess you would call them, and I was chairman for a couple of years, and co-chairman for a couple of years. And since it was just a tent, no real security, we usually slept in the tent. I had a sleeping bag, and I guess we always put the sleeping bag in the cattle barns through the day, so it'd be out of the road. And I guess one time I went to get my sleeping bag, and it wasn't there, and we didn't know where it was, and somebody had stolen it. And so as it happened, the RCMP musical ride was in London at the time. So I was talking to one of them about it and says, well, we'll see if we can find it. And they did find it. They found somebody sleeping in it on top of the bales of hay. So I did get it back again. So that was one of the interesting things about it that we got. And so I don't know if there's anything else, any crazy or anything like that. But those are one of the things I certainly remember anyway.
What do you feel was your biggest contribution to Junior Farmers?
I suppose one that I like to take credit for, I don't know if anybody else wants to take credit for it or not, but when we were overseas at one of their meetings or annual meetings, I'm not sure where it was, but they had a candle lighting ceremony. And this was sort of started at the top, which is probably the sponsoring organization, and then the flame was passed down to probably the president, and the president to his executive, and so on and so forth. So I brought that back to our own county. I was provincial director at the time, and suggested how we try this. And of course, our sponsor was the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, and the Minister of Agriculture and Food happened to be the Honourable William Stewart, who is our member, you might say. He only lives 10 miles from Millerton, so of course he was there. So I explained it to him, and oh yeah, sure, he's quite pleased. So he lit the first candle, and then passed it to me, or the flame, and as provincial director, then I passed it on to the president, who passed it on to the executive, who passed it on to the county directors, and then they sort of dispersed out into the crowd and singing this Junior Farmer Light of mine. And I think there's 2 or 3 other counties happened to be there as guests, and I think they took it back. And I think it was only a year or so later that the provincial had the same thing at their annual meeting. And I don't know whether they're still doing it or not. They were a few years ago. So now somebody else may claim that they started it too. I don't know, but that's one aspect where it came from. And I'm when I see it, I'm kind of proud of it. So I guess maybe that's my legacy to Junior Farmers as far as that goes. But other than that, I think Junior Farmers has probably been more of a legacy to me, and all the things I've gained out of Junior Farmers. So that's just one small aspect that I was able to give back, and I think it's continued on for a number of years anyway.
Are there any other traditions in Junior Farmers that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, there's what you talk about the memories and whatnot. I guess the 3 big events in provincial Junior Farmers for everybody was the Toronto Conference in January, and that was the musical aspect, public speaking, debating, you name it, just about every competition like that on the go, quartets, solos, and musical or instrumental, you name it was there. And then the other one was Provincial Field Day, which was quite an inter-county active thing there. And while you're talking about one crazy thing else, something happened to be there too that was also I certainly learned a good lesson from it. I was chairman of the evening event. At that time they had the square dance competition, and they presented the awards, and during all that time then we had to have the president, of course, of the province come up and say a few words. So it came time to call up on him, and I could not think of his name. I knew him as well as not, but could not think of it. So finally I just said, well, we'll ask the president to say a few words. And just as he was coming across, bang, it hit. So then let's welcome Joe Blow. Of course, nobody ever knew the difference, but that was, even if I'm introducing my brother now, I have it written down on a piece of paper in front of me. So I guess that's one lesson you sort of learn, and from experiences such as that. And then, of course, the annual meeting in March was always a big event as well. So those are sort of the three big things that I quite enjoyed.
And there were traditions they all had?
Well, they were all certainly different. I don't know if they call them traditions. The field day had its program, and so on and so forth. And of course the January conference. I guess one thing that I do really remember about the Junior Farmer Conference in January, I think it was held at the King Eddie, I think, at the time. And of course we'd all get on the train here in London, and 8:30 or 7:30 or whatever it was, and all get down. We pretty well rented a car on the train, and the whole bunch went down. And then of course they had all their evening things, and then a big dance at night. Well, I think the train came back about 11:30, and it was about a 10-minute walk from the King Eddie there. So about 20 after 11. There was a mad exodus of Middlesex junior farmers heading back, and I think we all got on the train. I don't think we left anybody, but we sure didn't lose any time. We didn't want to leave the dance, etc. But one of the biggest thrills I think I ever got, I'm involved in square dancing. That's one of my hobbies, I guess you might say. I've been calling square dances, as I say, before I had my driver's license. I won't say how many years, but that's what I always tell them anyway, which is true. But I'm not sure if I was involved in the province at that time, but anyway, they asked if I'd go up and call a square dance, which I did. Well, as soon as you get up and call the square dance, I think there's approximately over 1,200 junior farmers in the room, and I think they all got up in the squares, and the room was actually packed with squares, and of course everybody in those days knew square dancing, and it was a thrill of a lifetime to be calling to a room packed full of square dancers, and that was I don't think I've ever done it since, and may never do it again. I don't know, but that's something I will always remember about the Toronto conference. So those are some of the things with that.
Now you touched on this, but I'm going to ask you for a little more elaboration. How did junior farmers change you as a person?
I don't think it really changed me to a degree, because I got into it early, and it's just sort of a evolution of going on. And I don't think there's now what I would have been like if I hadn't been in junior farmers. I have no idea. But there's no sudden thing, hey, I'm different than I was yesterday because of junior farmers. It's just an evolution of getting involved, getting leadership, getting to know about leadership, parliamentary procedure, and continuing on. And then you go from junior farmers basically on into Federation of Agriculture and a few marketing boards, whatever interests you. And it's just sort of an evolution that you just sort of keep building on. So whether there's any change to it, I'm not sure that I could just say that there was.
Okay. In your opinion, what is the importance of having junior farmers in the province of Ontario, having this program?
I think the biggest thing then and now is the social aspect of it. You get, as we mentioned before, you get to know people across across your township and across the county and across the province, and it certainly develops you socially that way. Whereas if you were not involved in things like that, you'd probably still be social. You get involved with other things, but But I think that is probably the most important thing is the socialism, not necessarily socialism, but the social aspect of it. And then of course the secondary thing is your education, as I say, parliamentary procedure. How do you conduct meetings? How do you do this and how do you do that? And then also, especially on the local level, back in the day, we practically always had a guest speaker at our meetings. And so that's, you'd get a speaker and could be anything. We've had an OPP constable there, we've had, you name it for speakers. And so you sort of get another aspect of community, what's out in the community and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I would say those are the two big things of junior farmers. What it's like now, I'm not really sure. It is, I know, certainly a lot different. I've seen enough of it that now that it's different. Not saying it's better or worse, anything like that, but it is different. Back then, junior farmers was the organization. Today, I mean, like when we had our county meetings in London, and to go into London, I mean, that was a pretty main event. London's only 15 miles away, but that was a major event. Now you think nothing of going to London a couple times a day if you have to. And so it's a whole different aspect. There's the social aspect is such a broad thing that you can get your social activities out of anything. Out of going to clubs in London, out of going to different aspect, going to baseball, getting involved in sports, getting everything else. So, but back then, the junior farmers was the all to end all, you might say, and especially on the local level. So that's.
How many members in the province of Ontario was there during your time on the board?
I can't say.
No.
No, I can't say offhand. No, it is obviously up in the thousands, but no, I couldn't say. As I say, there was around, I think, 900 in Middlesex alone. Now, Middlesex was one of the bigger counties. There's no doubt about that, and one of the first counties to organize into junior farmers, and especially to make the province. But no, I can't say what there was.
How much did membership cost?
I'm not sure if there was even a membership fee at the time, because it's by and large, excuse me, the province was sponsored by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. It is up to the local clubs to raise their own money out of projects, out of food booths, out of whatever they did, and I can't really recall that there was a membership fee at the time.
Did you happen to go to leadership camp?
Yes, I did. Yes.
What year was that?
Oh, that'd be about 1963 or 4.
Okay. Do you want to talk about what happened at leadership camp? What leadership camp was?
Yes, it was at Lake Couchiking, just outside of Aurelia at the time. What they did, they divided you into Indian tribes at the time, and then they picked a leader for each tribe. And I don't know how they picked the leader, but I actually ended up being leader of the Ojibwe, I guess it was. And so it was up to us to, I think we'd have council meetings in the morning or something like that, like the different tribe leaders, to organize the day, I suppose, and then went back. And it was a lot of competitions and rivalry, you might say. And then, of course, they'd always have a campfire at night, and with different traditions of it. Sometimes I think there's one time that the campfire was supposed to light magically, and there's a bolt of lightning came out of the sky and lit it. Of course, somebody was up in the tree and sent something down, I don't know, it was lit onto, I don't know, coal oil or whatever it was in the fire. I'm not sure that worked perfect or not, but like they screwed up along the way someplace. But the idea was good. And then we also had classes, I guess you call them classes, in the afternoon, learning different things. One of our leaders there, was a teacher from the egg school in Eastern Ontario, Kemptville Egg School, by the name of Nelson Hahn. And he was one fantastic chap, and he could really get everybody going. He was more in communications, and one of his theories, expressions, whatever you want to call it, was roses are for the living. And like the aspect that everybody takes flowers to a funeral and whatnot, but that person doesn't see them there. It says give them now, and of course his roses were complimentary remarks throughout the day, and he sort of got things going that you had to compliment different people throughout the day, and I just forget how all that developed, whether you had a contest as to how many you could compliment or not, I'm not too sure. But yeah, he was certainly a real hit at the time, and Carm Hamilton was I think he was the top chief at the time, I think it was, but or it might have been Art Bennett, I'm not too sure way back then, but yeah, it was a good experience. And of course by the lake, so he had different water activities, and just a real good camping experience. And I think there's four from Middlesex went on that the year that I went. Now whether it's 4 every year or not, I'm not too sure, but yeah, so pretty well every county was represented at that too.
That's good. Do you have any other stories that we may have missed that you'd like to share?
No, I can't think of anything offhand. I guess I might remember more of the activities of the county necessarily than of the province, other than the provincial things that I was involved with, the overseas trip and various things like that. As far as the minutes and the business part of the province, I guess maybe I'm not that much of a businessman to remember the business aspects of any of the things, but yeah, it's certainly a great experience. And with the experience that I did get out of Junior Farmer, especially traveling overseas, about 8 years later, I did apply for a Nuffield scholarship. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but what it is a scholarship that was originated in the UK. They started off by, well, it was funded by a chap by the name of Lord Nelson, or Lord Nuffield, who made his money out of the automotive industry during the war, and he wanted to help out humanity, so he made scholarships for 3 different divisions: agriculture, medicine, and science. And so for the agriculture, they sent scholars from Great Britain out to other countries, and then they decided to start bringing scholars from the Commonwealth countries into Great Britain. And so and it was paid for, but then that was a 6-month excursion, and you go over to learn about agriculture over there. You don't go to a college or a school per se. You go to the actual farmers, and you can call up a farmer if you're interested in dairy. That's a dairyman. Say, you're Nuffield scholar from Canada, can I come out and see you? Sure, come on out, stay a couple of days. And it's just, the Nuffield scholarship opens up doors so wide open in the UK, because everybody knows what it is. And that was a fantastic experience. And of course, we still have the Canadian Nuffield Scholarship Association. We're sending scholars not only to Great Britain, but to sort of wherever they want to go. They can go to Australia, New Zealand. They have specific things they want to study. They can go where they like, and they get X number of dollars, and anything over that they have to pay for it or raise it themselves. But because of Junior Farmers, I applied for that, got it, and just sort of keep on going with experiences.
Since you finished with Junior Farmers, what have you done with yourself since?
Well, mostly farming, up until about 10 years ago. And then I sold most of my farm. I was in pork production. I've been secretary treasurer of the Middlesex Pork Producers for 8 or 9 years, and not now, of course, but then I've sold that farm. Then I did sell another piece of property. I still have some property that I share crop with some neighbors and whatnot. So yeah, I've been pretty well involved with agriculture the last 2 or 3 years. Involved a little bit with one of the seed companies doing seed corn deliveries, sort of the gopher, you might say, that if somebody runs out of a certain brand of seed, they call my boss, area field man. He knows where it is, so he gets hold of me, and I have to go to wherever it is, pick it up and bring it into them. And so I've enjoyed that part of it too. It's a 2-month job in the spring, but once again, you meet a lot of good farmers, good people, and see a lot of good country in the springtime.
If you could say something to members today, to junior farm members today, what would you tell them? What would you want them to know?
I suppose if you wanted in 2 words, one would be to join, the other one would be to participate. And I think they would get a lot out of it. You get a lot of good experiences, and a fantastically good time. Of course, the good time that you have is because of the good time you made. You know, you can't just join and not participate and expect a lot of returns for it. You have to participate in it, and the more you participate, you do and enjoy it, and you get different experiences. One other experience I guess I didn't miss, that in county junior farmers, I got talking to a local radio station and was asking them to, would there be any possibility of having, they had a sort of a noon broadcast, a little bit on agriculture, whether there be any chance of maybe having a 7 or 8 minute broadcast every week on it. And they took me up on it, and so as a result, every Saturday, well, I think it was around 10 after 12 or something like that, they had a junior farm broadcast, which I was the host of, and so that went on for a while. Then I got a chap, Jim Moore from Elgin County, and he joined me, and so then we alternated weeks and had this junior farm broadcast. And it's surprising how many people would comment that they heard it. So it's another way of advertising, junior farmers, I guess you might say. And of course we include 4-H and things like that, and some agriculture news. But the radio station didn't really have any much on agriculture, and this got some agriculture onto their radio station. So it was a good experience in itself.
That's good. Thanks.